Hey, Odie, can you come here for a second? Got something I gotta talk to you about. Now. Well, there's no easy way to do this. You know times have been tough, and unfortunately, we're not able to keep you on. I apologize for having to do this to you. Please talk to HR about healthcare and your other options. Thanks for all the hard work you put in. Unfortunately, the situation has changed since we made that statement. I apologize. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Please gather your things. Hey guys, Brendan here. Now, I tried to make light of that situation a little bit by firing my dog, but unfortunately, this is a situation that many of us are going to have to face. A recent Wall Street Journal article stated that a record 3.28 million workers applied for unemployment benefits last week as the new virus hit the US economy, marking the end of a decade-long job expansion. This is nearly 5 times the previous record high. Take a look at this chart showing jobless claims through March 21st. Experts estimate that unemployment rates could reach 20% in the coming months. As a comparison, the Great Depression from 1929 to 1933 saw unemployment rates reach around 25%. The risks from this virus aren't over yet, and I believe that the worst is yet to come. The unemployment numbers reflect the unique nature of the recession we are currently experiencing. Usually during a recession, the economy slows over a period of months, and it takes a while for unemployment numbers to rise following this. Due to the sudden nature of this recession and the immediate closure of businesses, there has been an unusually rapid downturn, an immediate spike in jobless claims. The CARES Act that was recently passed may mitigate some of this downturn a little bit, but many of us will still lose our jobs. On a somewhat positive note, a lot of these layoffs are situational, and hopefully many people will get their jobs back once things begin to normalize. The problem is that no one knows when this will be. We can look at other countries to see how they've contained the virus to get an estimate of what will happen here, but preliminary reports show that we aren't actually containing the virus as well as some other countries. So if you're one of the many unlucky individuals whose industry was affected by the virus and you in turn lost your job, what should you do next? Fortunately, you do have a lot of options available to help you get through this period. So let's get into it. So I first wanted to start with the definition. Being laid off is very different than being fired. Being laid off means that they are eliminating your position, many times for financial reasons. This is very different than being fired, where often you were let go for your performance or your conduct, and your employer will look to rehire for your position. This language matters because you don't want to say you were fired when you were actually laid off, especially when you're applying for new jobs. Saying you were laid off makes it clear that it was a financial decision rather than work-related. So first, what should you do if you're still working but you suspect you might be laid off? Companies are often very secretive about this, but in times like these especially, you might see it coming. If you see the danger signs that this might be happening, such as your company being in financial stress or the project you're working on is canceled, then you should prepare for this so that you're not blindsided in the event it happens. So there are a few things you can do to prepare for the possibility of being laid off. First, you can start looking for a new job. At a minimum, you should get your resume ready, and you can even start applying for new jobs. If it turns out that you don't get laid off, there's no obligation for you to take this new job, but it's good for you to look out in the marketplace and see what's available. But maybe you'll find a job you prefer anyway, and in the event you do lose your job, you'll be very happy you started the search early. Also, you may want to take home or email yourself anything you'll want in the case that you do get laid off. After being laid off, you may not be allowed back on your work computer, so you could lose access to contact information or personal files that are on there. It's smart to email yourself these items ahead of time so you have them on your home computer should you need them. This is obviously subject to any policies your employer has about taking home certain items or information. You shouldn't steal anything from the company or take home any sensitive information that could get you in trouble with your employer. So, you've just been fired or laid off. Now what? First, don't panic. You will get through this and things will get better. It's important to have a level head and take things step by step so you're able to deal with them the best way possible. Hopefully, if you've been watching this channel, you have an emergency fund set up to lean on. An emergency fund should have cash to cover expenses for 3 to 6 months. But don't worry, even if you don't, there are other options available. One thing is in the CARES Act that was recently passed, unemployment insurance was increased. I'll get more into that in a second. But also, in the current market environment, there are many companies that are looking to hire. Also, you might have a spouse that's still making money that could help you get by. So I've created a list of the most important things to take care of immediately following being laid off. If you follow this list, you'll make sure you're taking care of all of the most important items. So the first thing is you want to be clear on the terms and nature of your termination. Ask your employer to define the exact nature of your layoff. Is it temporary or permanent? Your employer may be planning to rehire you after a certain period of time, especially in the scenario we're going through right now. After this pandemic, they could be thinking about rehiring you. Also, maybe the business is cyclical or seasonal, and after a certain period of time, they'll need extra help and be looking to rehire you. Also, if you were laid off rather than fired, you may want to ask your employer for a short note stating the reason for your layoff and that it wasn't performance related. This will help you when applying for new jobs. Also, you'll want to check on severance pay. Severance pay or benefits may be available upon termination from your company, but it is not guaranteed. It is usually based on length of employment, but employers don't offer severance packages just to be nice. In order to receive a severance package, you may have to sign paperwork stating that you won't talk negatively about the company. They may also need you to agree to not take legal action or work for a competitor for a certain period of time. So next, you want to collect your final paycheck. This varies state by state, but make sure at least that your employer has stated when and how they plan on paying you your final paycheck. Also, you may be owed compensation for accrued vacation, sick time, overtime, or back pay. Make sure that you and your employer are on the same page and it is clear how much is owed to you. You'll also want to check on eligibility for employee benefits. You might be eligible for particular benefits. Some of the benefits you had while on the job may carry over for a certain period of time. For example, if your firm had over 20 employees, then they are required by law to offer you health insurance through COBRA for at least 18 months. You will likely need to pay for this coverage, but sometimes employers pay a portion of it as a part of the severance package. COBRA gives employees who have been laid off the option to continue health insurance as part of the group plan for a certain period of time. You'll also want to check on your pension plan or 401k options. What happens to your pension plan after you're laid off depends on what type of plan you have. If you have a defined benefit pension plan, then your benefits will begin at your retirement age. You may also have the option to roll this over to another plan. But if you have a defined contribution plan, like a 401k, then you have several options available to you. Your first option is to stay in your existing employer's plan. If you have over $5,000 in your 401k plan, then generally your employer is required to allow you to leave it in their plan. But unless you have a unique circumstance where you'll want to keep this plan open, such as specific investments that can only be held in that 401k, then I'd suggest you go with one of the other options. If each time you got a new job, you left your 401k in the employer's plan, then by the time you retire, you could potentially have several of these and they can be hard to track. So another option is to move your money to your new employer's 401k plan. If your new employer offers a 401k, then you can roll over your old 401k into your new one. This makes a lot of sense, especially if you like the investment options in your new plan. Be sure to pay attention to the asset transfer rules so you don't miss a deadline or potentially create a taxable situation. Your third option is to roll your money into an IRA. You can transfer your 401k into a rollover IRA plan. The money will remain tax deferred and you can invest it any way you'd like. Many custodians offer rollover IRAs, so you have a lot of options available to you. But keep in mind, if you want to make a backdoor Roth IRA contribution, then you can't have a balance in your IRA account. So at that point, you'd either have to roll it into a 401k or convert the entire amount. Converting your entire rollover IRA to a Roth IRA plan generally would not be recommended because of the tax consequences, unless your specific situation warrants it. So your fourth option would be just to cash out your plan. This option should not be considered unless you're in desperate need for cash. The money removed will be taxable as ordinary income, and if you are under age 59 and a half, then you'll also be subject to a 10% penalty. Although there are some situations where the 10% penalty will be waived. In the CARES Act that was recently passed, they actually made it a little bit easier to get around this 10% penalty. Cashing out early also loses out on the advantage of tax-deferred growth on your retirement plans. It's important to make sure you are clear on your options. If you're unsure of anything, then you can reach out to your HR rep and I'm sure that they'll be able to help you out. If something you're told doesn't sound right, then do your own research and make sure you're clear. So the next thing you should do is file for unemployment benefits. Don't wait on this. A lot of people are filing for unemployment now, and if you wait, then your benefits may be delayed. If you've been laid off from your job and you meet the unemployment requirements for your state, then you'll likely be eligible for unemployment benefits. The CARES Act that was just passed has recently increased unemployment benefits. So rather than receiving them for a maximum of 26 weeks, you can receive them for a maximum of 39 weeks. Also, for the first 4 months, you receive an additional $600 per week on top of what you would normally receive. I'll provide links in the description below for how to apply for unemployment benefits. So also something to consider is you should ask your previous employer for a letter of recommendation. This is especially true if you were laid off rather than fired. And obviously, if you haven't done this already, then you should start a new job search. Prepare your resume and begin applying for new jobs. Any income is helpful, and especially at a time like this, there are still several companies looking for new employees. Swallow your pride and don't let your ego get in the way. No job is beneath you when the alternative is going into debt or not having enough money to support your family. Be aware how much you would make through unemployment though, because you don't want to get a job that would pay you less than what you would have earned in unemployment. So when looking for a new job, think about the essential companies that are still hiring in this time period. Places like grocery stores or food delivery services, hospitals, emergency personnel. There's a lot of options still out there. Also, don't be afraid to network and use your current contacts to find if any jobs are available out there. It's a very competitive marketplace and you should use everything you have to your advantage. Also, if you've been let go, don't trash your former employer on social media or anywhere else. This won't do anyone any good, especially you. Expect your new employer to look up your social media history to check up on you. If they see you saying bad things about a former employer, then it could reflect badly on you and make you look like a problem employee. Be as upbeat and positive as you can when discussing your former employer. When asked about it, speak about everything you learned there and what great connections you made with the people working there. So the last item I have is to cut any unnecessary expenses. You should take a close look at your discretionary and your non-discretionary expenses. Basically, expenses that are necessary and expenses that are optional. You should also track your expenses in detail so that you know where every cent you earn goes. It's important to make sure that items essential to your well-being are taken care of. Things like rent, utilities, groceries, and health insurance. This may mean pausing your streaming services or your gym membership for the time being. Also, if you find yourself in debt, you should reach out to the companies that you owe money to. Many people are going through tough times, and a lot of these companies are offering relief programs to help you get through it. Also, if you have a mortgage or are unable to pay it, then you should reach out to your mortgage company and ask for something called forbearance. This is a special agreement between the lender and the borrower to delay foreclosure. They actually extended this in the recent CARES Act that was passed. This can help give you relief until you're back on your feet and able to catch up with your payments. Some utility companies are also being very generous, allowing you to skip payments but keeping their essential services like water and internet running. Specific to our current crisis, if you find yourself in financial hardship, the CARES Act does allow you to take up to a $100,000 distribution from your 401k without receiving the 10% penalty, even if you're under age 59 and a half. This applies for 2020 only. This is only allowed for those that have either been diagnosed with the coronavirus, have a spouse that has been diagnosed with the coronavirus, or have experienced adverse financial considerations due to being laid off. This distribution will be taxed as ordinary income, but it is an option if you need it. Also, it can be repaid within 3 years. This repayment can be very important to your retirement and can help you save a lot in taxes. I hope you found this video helpful. If you found yourself in this situation, then realize you aren't alone and we will get through it together. I'm hoping I can get back to making more positive videos in the near future, but I thought my last few videos were very timely and important considering the situation the world is going through. Are there any things you should do if you're fired or laid off that I didn't include in my list? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and also hit the little bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.